this final session of this training course. Today's session will be about gender, and we already have our teacher with us, Eleonora Spinelli. She was the writer of the base document, and she set a series of tasks, of assignments, like other teachers. One was a practical exercise during the week where we received participation from several people. And we have already said that these contributions have been really interesting to discuss examples. I remember talking to Emilio and Paula at the beginning of the course, and it was our aim to make sure that there was theory and practice, and that we wanted to make sure that the teachers could ensure this. But I think that really the finishing touch has been given by the students who have made all of these contributions and wonderful examples. Today is our final webinar. And what's special about this one in comparison to others is, well, firstly, that Eleonora will be giving you some feedback, linking the theory to the practice. But we're also going to be welcoming a dear colleague whose name is Vanessa Gialevra. She is a hardworking colleague who is working in social economy, innovation, linked to the gender issue. So, although times are hard, Vanessa is going to tell us about her experience, and that's what's going to give this webinar some added value this time. At the end, I think Sara and possibly Emilio will be sharing a few words on behalf of UCLG and so on. But before then, we have an hour of work ahead of us. And then before it's over, we will give the floor to Sara so that she can share a few words with us from UCLG. I see that people are still joining us. Patricia, Laura, Javier, welcome everyone. Nevertheless, I'm going to give the floor to Eleonora so that we can start to enjoy all of her wisdom and everything she has to share in this unit. So, Eleonora, the floor is yours.
Gracias, Pablo. Buenos
Thank you
días.
very much, Pablo. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to all of you.
En principio, agradecerles la
I'd
presencia
like
esta mañana.
to thank you for inviting me here. I know that it's a very special time of year and it's been a complex year as well. Certainly a challenging, atypical year. But I want to thank you all for being here with me. I'm not going to go on for too long because what I really want is to foster a bit of debate, because ultimately we are all learning here. This is a learning community and we can all learn from one another, from our different experiences, geographies, and trajectories. So we would like to foster healthy conversation. But I do just want to go over some of the main topics that we mentioned this week and that were discussed in the forum in relation to the base document that we wrote very enthusiastically to share with all of you. And we want to focus on the idea of the central approach to gender in all of our regions, and especially in a scenario like ours where we are recovering from a pandemic. When we're talking about territorial development, it's all about improving the conditions and capabilities, the living standards that every individual has in a given territory. So this central approach to build a fairer and more equal world and a better place to live is very important. On our agenda, we have highlighted the importance, not only, as we mentioned this week, with sectorial actions targeting women in particular, but the challenge of mainstreaming, of making sure that all of our initiatives for post-pandemic recovery in this difficult time all include the gender perspective. And they should all start with the question of how are women and men being affected differently, and how are we addressing those differences and those problems? Financial recovery is going to affect women and men, but will it be equal? We're already based on inequality in all spectrums of life, in work, in violence, in independence in decision making, and the empowerment of women and people with diversity. So, really, this is an issue where we need to put our heads together and be creative in our sectorial, territorial area with all of our specificities. So, I'm just going to discuss 3 or 4 of the things that came up this week, which were very interesting and brought forward experiences from every different field. And then I'm going to open the floor so that we can all talk and chat. And as Pablo was saying, we will also give the floor to Vanessa, our colleague who is with us to talk to us a bit about the practice that she's seeing in gender issues in social and solidarity economy. So I'm just going to highlight some of those main points that we've been discussing over the week. And if anyone wants to share any thoughts, you'll be welcome to. There were a few things that several of you really highlighted, and those are the ones I want to talk about. First of all, the importance of gender statistics, especially in a lot of Latin American countries. We are somewhat behind in terms of gathering the statistics on the gender gap and on inequality in decision making. Someone was sharing an interesting case in the city of Buenos Aires, and you can all read it because it was shared publicly. But it's not just the quantitative data that we need in order to build policies and make decisions about fundamental sectors such as care or non-paid domestic work and the conditions of domestic work, the informal labor market. There's a whole series of spheres where we need to start gathering statistics, which will be crucial when it comes to making local decisions. But we also need to build qualitative diagnostics and to build a space in which we can discuss how diversity and women are being affected, and it's been worsened by the pandemic. So this is one of the issues that has come up in terms of gathering figures, gathering data to make good decisions. Another aspect that wasn't included in my base document, but that some of you mentioned, is linked to the digital gap, the digital divide, and how that digital divide, which the pandemic has really laid on the table, this has become something of a right for all of us. We need it in work, we need it in education, in social links, and it really affects women in a different way to men. So it's important to address it as an instrument because it is an instrument for capacitation. And this wasn't included, like I say, in the base document, but I really think it's a challenge we need to talk about in the future. And also, there have been some numbers shared about post-pandemic initiatives in the gender perspective. There was one shared by the UNDP, where these global data that we're receiving say that in 42 countries, so in 20% of the countries analyzed, no gender measures have been taken in relation to COVID. And Octavi shared a similar point in relation to an organization for local governments in his area, and he shared some interesting data, which was that out of 657 experiences, only 54% included gender issues. Only 54 included gender issues, which is just 8%, sorry. And only very few of them are linked to gender violence. But as Octavio was saying very sensibly, they also need to address how the economy is affecting women. And then there were other very enthusiastic initiatives, very promising initiatives. such as the Micaela law and the trans and transvestite law in Argentina. There, Martin mentioned something very interesting about how national public policies, in this case in Argentina, are starting at a local level. And it's really important to foster relations between different sectors to make these local initiatives make sense and to ensure that they're set within the right framework. The law of Micaela is for training for civil servants in Argentina in relation to gender, and it forces the state to ensure that 1% of workers belong to a diverse gender sector. And that's something that a few of you mentioned in the forum. Another initiative that Leila mentioned was regulation for domestic work, for household work. That's another very important topic. It concerns refugees and their ability to become entrepreneurs. And some of these initiatives have been very promising. Others have not, but I think it's important to really mention the ones that are. Now, I don't want to go on much further. I just wanted to say that it's been a very interesting forum and that I really appreciate having this option to share all of our ideas. And then I will now give the floor to Vanessa because she wants to share some ideas with us. Excellent, Eleonora, thank you. Now, I think the students or everyone really in the course can take the opportunity to talk. And I just wanted to add something to what Eleonora said. We were very careful when writing this module because we know that there are different cultures coming together in this training course and that there are different perspectives. The Western world is not necessarily the same as the Arabic world, maybe, and everyone has a different perspective. So we needed to be very respectful when we were bringing this to the table. So if anyone wants to share their perspective, their difference, please do, but please be careful in your words. And I wanted to add this not because Eleonora didn't say it, but just because it's important that you understand how careful we were, and that includes FAMSI, and we wanted to thank them also for bringing this to the table. So if anyone has a different perspective because they see something differently to us or because they have a different approach, then please feel free to share your ideas. Thank you, Eleonora. Who would like to share something with us from their territorial perspective? Who would like to add something new to the debate or tell us about what they've been doing? Abdallah, I believe. You have the floor.
I think Noura asked for the floor before me. Noura, please, and then I will continue.
It's okay. Last time I took your turn. You took mine now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to say a few things. Thanks for the material. I read it, I think, 3 times actually, and it was very interesting. And this module specifically is very important for me. It has come to me in the beginning of this year, 2020, in February and March, before the pandemic. We as an organization prepared our approach, or what we call it, action plan for APLA for the gender mainstreaming approach, which was supposed to start by next year for 3 years. And I have been reading what is written here and comparing to what we already prepared, and with happily I can say most of the suggestions, recommendations, and ideas mentioned in your document, Nora, is in a way or another reflected in our action plan. And now I have to think, or we as an organization have to think how to update this action plan, taking into consideration the post-COVID era. So I really enjoyed it. I want to say a few things, actually. I have a question and I would like to receive the answer before my comments. But I don't like the word gender equality personally. Maybe I'm wrong. I like to use the phrase gender mainstreaming because I feel mainstreaming is more powerful. It goes beyond the equality. For the equality, I understand it, it goes for providing equal opportunities, as simple as this. This is how I like to consider it. But mainstreaming means not only providing equal opportunities, but even going the step after the opportunities. This is one thing, and I would like to hear what do you think about my opinion. Second thing, I would like to tell two quick stories. In the last year, we met as an association of municipalities. We met a forum. I don't know the name exactly in English, but it's for the retired mayors and council women. They have like a community, a society for the previous mayors and council women, female mayors, of course. And we discussed together what can we do as an association of municipalities to support or to empower women in the local governments in general. And I'm sorry to say, but they couldn't agree on an opinion, unfortunately. For example, we asked them in the local election, what do you think about the percentage, about the quota? What do you propose? So they couldn't agree about, but the maximum proposal from their side was 35%. And we as an association, we proposed to have 50-50. And we asked them, do you think you are ready or not? I don't know what they answered because they couldn't find the answer. I agree completely that the main challenge is the culture itself. So my vision as an association, as Abdullah, we need to start. It's not, it's a very long term process. And it amazes me that the data online on the UNDP website and the measures in the document, it's not only in Palestine or in Africa or in Southern, it's all over the world. The gender issues are still needs a lot to be worked. Even I appreciate and I am heavily engaged with the UCLG. I follow everything the UCLG are doing, the UCLG women, and a lot of organization. I don't know how to tackle these issues, but we need to focus a lot and a lot and a lot on the students, on the young generation, so we can change the whole mentality about the importance of engagement of women. And just on a side, another note about the pandemic, yeah, we are reading a lot of reports about the increase of violence against women, against girls over all the world. But also I read a lot of reports about the violence against the young people, the youth. It's unbelievable, unfortunately. That's all what I want to say. Thank you very much.
¿Contestamos ahora o le damos la
Sí,
palabra?
Should we answer the question now? Yes, go ahead. I think you could answer him. I'm not entirely sure whether we made it clear that Abdallah is from an association in Palestine of municipalities. Well, thank you, Abdallah, for your comments. I'm delighted to know that for you it's been interesting and that this is a good forum to discuss. I think everything you've said is really interesting, and I hope we can carry on sharing ideas with these documents and everything that you mentioned. Hopefully, we'll still be able to exchange. In relation to your question, I was thinking about this because I've never thought of it in this regard. I'm going to answer you from my point of view in Argentina, in Latin America, about equality. I think it's about bringing to the table the fact that there are different starting points for men and for women, symbolically, culturally, and women and diversities have had a different development to men. And for me, mainstreaming has more to do with how to apply initiatives in every different field and giving equal opportunities. This has been really interesting, so thank you for your comment. It's made me think about whether they are exclusive or whether they're complementary ideas. So I appreciate you saying that. I think gender equality really highlights the gap, the divide that we are starting from, whereas mainstreaming is about generating opportunities. That's what I think. But I really appreciate you raising that question. Thank you. I don't know if Nora is around. She also wanted to share something. Thank you, Abdallah.
Gracias, gracias por darme la palabra.
Thank you for giving
Quería
me the
decir
floor.
otra cosa, pero
I
ahora
wanted to say something else, but now that I've heard what Abdallah had to say and also Eleonora, I started to think about this too. It's true that we talk a lot about equality, but I would say something even more. I like the idea of equity rather than equality. I think it's easier to explain culturally as well. In my experience in countries like Haiti, where I've been working with associations of elected women, it's a completely new association, and all of the training that they receive about gender equality was much more about equity in reality. So we had a graph on the table on the wall, uh, and it's this image of a wall where we have different people who are some are smaller and some are shorter, and when we have if everyone has the same chair, they won't all be able to see over, but if they have higher chairs or lower chairs, they'll be able to see over the other side of the wall. I'm not sure I'm explaining this very well, but at the other side of the wall, there was something they had to see, probably a football match or something. But really, what I wanted to say was because of what I've been thinking since Abdallah mentioned this just now, since he mentioned this idea about all of the thoughts that you have in your Palestinian association, I wanted to say when we talk about equity, gender equity, and local economic development, in certain countries in Latin America, I realized that we need to not only focus on youth, because young people, of course, is a very interesting point, but also indigenous communities. Because depending on where we are working or depending on the different regions, that can be a really important topic. And the vision of equity can be slightly different. We need to take that into account if we want our impact to be really effective at the local economic level, and if we want to give people or women, young people, the same opportunities as men.
Gracias, Nora. Sin duda, sí, para quienes
Thank you,
estamos
Nora. Yes, without doubt, there are communities in Latin America that also have to be borne in mind. There's also the issues of rural communities. And whenever we start to explore this, new issues come up. It's a global topic, but there are specificities in different areas, and we need to really understand them. So thanks also for adding that point of view. Does anybody else want to make any comments, point anything out? I think Octavi is hoping to share something. Yes, well, rather than an answer, I want to share another thought, because we as an organization have a key element, which is gender equality and gender mainstream. But then when it comes to the practice, I couldn't help thinking, because of what you wrote in the document and because of this repository that you've created, only 6% of responses are linked to gender, and most of them are linked to violence, to gender violence. In our organization, we don't get directly or actively involved in this, but we do guide people, we recommend policies, we try to help define models for people to take part. So we do have this holistic vision, but it's all very partial when we're approaching gender issues. Sometimes there are quadruple inequalities. There's gender violence, which let's say is the most visible, but there's also the economic side, who's involved in the informal economy. When it comes to mobility, it's mostly women who use public transport. There's use of public spaces, there's education, there's the digital divide. And yet the changes that we start to make are very isolated. And that's a shame because ultimately they are all linked and they can all feed back into each other, because the more independent you are in mobility, the more independent you are economically, and then the least likely you are to suffer gender violence. So all of this, it's like a circle, and the more vulnerable you are in one aspect, the more you are in others. So this led me to think that we've been working on gender for about 2 years and focusing solely on mobility and safety for women and children. And suddenly what you've just said made me think, hey, maybe we need to change the way we see this and make it a bit more holistic, because sometimes we think that the economic step is the last step, but maybe it's the most important one to address if we want to then address other inequalities and equities. Thank you very much, Octavi. Yes, I think that from my experience, certainly, and probably from a great many others, I suspect it's a global trend. We need to stop focusing on specific sectors and specific aspects, like Nora said, and start thinking of it from this mainstream point of view. And we really need to include it as if it were just something totally natural, this cross-sector approach, because if we start to focusing on just violence or just whatever, if we keep them isolated, we're not going to be able to really give it this global approach, this comprehensive approach. Ultimately, the question is, how are women and diversities affected differently? That's what we need to understand. And if we manage to take that step, which is sadly quite difficult because nobody has the magic recipe, there are suggestions, there are successful experiences, which we can't all replicate, sadly. But ultimately, it's about answering this question. Whenever we start with a new initiative, whenever we sit down at the table, if we ask this question, it's going to give us the perspective that we really need. It's going to give us the understanding we need. So thank you everyone for sharing these contributions. Eleonora, if you don't mind, we could give the floor to Vanessa, and then if there are any further comments, we can discuss them after hearing Vanessa. What do you think? Because I think that's also a way to make sure we keep in time. In any case, it's really interesting to see how everywhere in the world there's this real complexity that we need to understand, we need to grasp, we need to achieve gender mainstreaming, and this is a whole learning curve that we're following now. What do you think, Eleonora? Yes, yeah. So carry on. Yes, I want to introduce Vanessa because she has a lot to say about what we've been talking about, changing our perspective, about trying to fight for the economic independence of women. Vanessa Levra is the coordinator. She doesn't like to be called specialist. She likes to be called the coordinator of a textile fabric factory for women in Rafaela, in the province of Santa Fe in Argentina. She's going to talk to us a bit about that specific experience, and she also helped to write up the document that we've been working on. And based on what she says, we're going to try and understand the experience of cooperatives in that region. Meanwhile, I'm going to share my screen, which I think I can do, so that while she's speaking, I can show you some pictures, and that's going to give it a more human touch. So, Vanessa, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Hola a todos. Buenos
Hello,
días.
everyone. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. The idea
Es en el taller, pero
was to join you in the workshop, but sadly the connection, the internet connection where I work wasn't very good. It's a bit weak. So I had to come here to do it, but I really I hoped I'd be able to join you in that workspace. Sadly, that was not possible. As Eleonora said, we are a working textile cooperative. In 2020, this year, we've managed to achieve this legal status of becoming a cooperative, which helps to visibilize and give some shape to an initiative that started in 2007. And we've had some very interesting, positive, or unexpected results. We are all textile workers in social economy. We're based in Rafaela in different neighborhoods, different districts. But all of us had some knowledge to some degree of sewing, and we were all called together through the A Municipal Initiative, a program called Inclusive Value Chains, which involves several players across the city. Because of that, we started to gather together round about 2017. Different women, each of us had a workshop at home where each woman had a different small job, a different degree of entrepreneurship, but all of the women needed more constant income for their families. And then some of the women from the more peripheral areas would go to a neighborhood sewing workshop, let's say. They'd be based in some sort of district building or something like that. So the municipality started to implement training initiatives. That was the first idea, to train people, to give us the right qualifications, and to understand the needs that we had as women, as workers. We started to address the issue of unemployment and how it impacts people in Rafaela, where out of every 10 unemployed people, 7 are women. And we tried to see why that was happening. We tried to understand the scenario, and it's all about this inequality, this lack of equity in production times and turnover. Most women are the main source of income in their homes. They look after their children, they look after their grandchildren a lot of the time, and some of them also take care of their parents. So the situation is very complex, and each woman was in a different situation. And we started to raise the question of how could Stefania, let's say, improve her workshop in the region of Barranquilla? What could she do to create the clothes that someone needed to wear in the industrial sector of Rafaela? So it was about meeting one point of the scale to the other. Now, for that woman, for Stefania, it would be impossible to do this. So all of the capabilities that she needed is what we started to work on, and we became a collective workforce. And now we've become a cooperative, as I was saying earlier, and the Inclusive Value Chains program has received a lot of support from the Tailors Trade Union, from the university, from development agencies, from the University of Business Sciences as well. So we've been exploring as many lines as possible to see how we can get the training we need, not just for the specific sewing skills we would need, but also how to deal with suppliers, how to relate to consumers and customers. So we've been working together with companies to really understand the importance of making inclusive purchases and to make people understand how their purchase is contributing to the social economy and to the popular economy, and to ultimately see how beneficial this is for women, which also, of course, extends to their families. And that's the essence of it, really. There's still a lot of work left to do. We are learning. We are constantly learning about how we can grow stronger and gain ground in the labor market, because although we now have more employed women with wages, the perception that people have of gender equality is still not the way it should be. That's what we see in social cultural structures. It's not just a workplace. We are in the textile sector, and traditionally, the textile sector has been very unequal and very much more for women. The 8th of March, which is World Women's Day, actually commemorates the experience of a group of women at a factory, a textile factory, who stood their ground to claim better working conditions in their workplace. And there was a tragic ending for these women. Hundreds of women died. So that day commemorates those women from the textile sector. That's what International Women's Day is about. So, as I say, this is a sector that traditionally has always been dominated by women, and it's always been very precarious. It has highlighted the inequality that women experience. We think that a lot of violence, a lot of inequalities against women have really helped employers to take advantage of this situation to make sure that women, even within the textile sector, are still discriminated, because there's always different levels. There's always some discrimination. Women were always the ones who were sitting in with the sewing machine, sewing, where and doing the harder work, let's say, and then in the more authority positions or in the sales positions, there would always be men. So the idea is to really see the value that women can bring to their work. We want to raise awareness and raise visibility towards the human factor. We want to make companies and customers more aware of how women work and of everything that goes behind an item of clothing that people wear. Thank you, Vanessa. It's very interesting to hear a different experience, and it sort of shapes what we were mentioning earlier. Before holding this meeting, Vanessa and I were on the phone chatting, and one of the things she said to me, which really resonated, was the working conditions that women in the textile sector had. They were often working with women in clandestine factories outside of the legal framework. So that's why I wanted to show you these pictures. There are women smiling. It's a jolly atmosphere. So beyond the actual work that they're doing, it's this organization, it's this sense of having a group, which I think is important to highlight in these experiences. I don't know if anyone would like to ask Vanessa any questions. Pablo had one, I think. Yes, because I think it could help the group. If you just have a brief answer, could you tell us? Because a lot of people here come from municipal associations. The question is, what was the role of the municipality? How did they help you? How did they guide you? How was the communication process? What did you need from them, and what did they give? Because I think in this particular course, the role of municipalities is really interesting. I know some experiences, but it would be really useful to hear your experience in this case. The role of municipality was crucial, and it still is today. These are complex processes, and the role of the municipality is still to support us and to guide us. They do that on an ongoing basis. And when constituting our cooperative, it was the municipality who called us together, who analyzed the issue of unemployment in the city at a local level based on statistics, which showed that it's mostly women who are affected by unemployment. So they called us together. We didn't get together ourselves. They were the ones who encouraged us to come together and to think and talk about our conditions. And they asked us how we could access the market. It was the municipality who really helped to make this happen, to link the private sector to the social economy by talking to companies, by raising awareness, talking to all of the different players in the city and telling them how important it is to include women and to drive this change, to create dignified work for women, to improve their conditions, and to guide them in the process on the way. The local government also helped us to receive training. First of all, it was in community workshops owned by the municipality. So it's these community buildings that I was talking about. That's how we started doing our first jobs. We received our first orders from companies. The municipality helped us to get the machinery, the equipment, the training, and just basically to follow the whole path that we needed to get to the right level of skills so that each woman could find how best they could each contribute and to find where they feel most comfortable in order to produce these textiles.
Creo que tiene una pregunta y Octavi.
Nora has a question and Octavi as well. Thank you, Vanessa. This is a wonderful experience. It's great to hear about things like this. I wanted to share something that happens in Montreal. I come from the Canada Municipalities Association, and we represent all of the municipalities, small and large, in the country, or most of them at least. And the experience that you've just talked about and the question raised by Pablo reminded me of an experience we have here in Montreal. There is a group there called Small Hands, Little Hands. This was an experience that stemmed from the idea of supporting immigrants, immigrant women. So in the case of Montreal, it was women who would come in and didn't speak French. The same applied to Ottawa, where there were people who didn't speak the local language. And it was the idea of joining women together through sewing, through tailoring. All of these women had different histories, different backgrounds, but all of them had integration issues. And to cut a long story short, this organization, which is a non-for-profit association, which allows it to receive financial support without having to pay too much tax, that organization turned into an organization that, I'm afraid I can't find the word, that makes the police uniforms for the police officers in the city of Montreal. So when there was a huge world conference here hosted in Montreal, everyone received a bag with the logo that said Little Hands, made by these local women. So it was the municipality who got them involved in making specific products, specific items, and it really made them more visible. It made people really understand them and see that they were there because they were collaborating with these international events and so on. So what you've just said about making products for companies and so on, that's important, but the municipality itself can really play a role in ordering, let's say, uniforms or other items that people have to use. And what that does is that fosters a local economy. Yes, we work with the municipality very closely when we make our purchases and our orders. We're always working together to do things for different segments. Because this was a multidiscipline initiative from the Innovation Secretariat, the Unemployment Secretariat, and so on, during the pandemic, we were able to really reach out to companies that, well, not reach out to them, let's say, actually, yeah, well, communicate with them and create commercial transactions. In the end, what has happened is that those companies have come to us to place orders for this new healthcare equipment that's been needed, and that's provided some sound and reliable workflow. So in this group of women, domestic violence also rose during the pandemic, and the municipality responded to that. The Gender Secretariat did a lot of work to support the women, to guide them in these situations, provide them with psychological support, to help them report the cases to the police. They've been keeping track of them in their homes, always with the aim of making sure that the progress that has been made, which was basically letting them leave their homes and have good jobs, making sure that that wasn't all in vain, because these women have come so far recently, and it's a shame to lose that. And that's all, really. Thank you, Nora, for sharing another experience as well. We can now give the floor to Octavi, I think, and then I think Paolo and Pablo will want to conclude this. What I was going to say is very much linked to what Pablo was saying, but Vanessa, I think, has already answered it. The Congress that we organized in 2017 in Montreal, yes, I can confirm that the bags were made by this Little Hands organization. I thought it was interesting to hear you say about how everyone, almost everyone in the city has got involved. There's been the mayors, the universities. So it's really interesting to see how the university has also got involved. I wanted to ask how you did that and whether you also reached out to the suppliers and how you've done all the marketing, the commercialization work. I like it because this example really covers everything that we've been talking about in the modules. It covers the whole production chain and it includes everyone. Yes, all that happened during the first few meetings, the first work roundtables that we held in the municipality, where all of the different players were called together and everyone contributed and did their bit to make sure the process could happen. And then that dialogue that we achieved was kept going. We reached out to the university and they helped with administrative sides and the accounting. There was also people who helped in marketing, in design. So every different sector made their contributions, as did the development agencies to define the lines of funding, how to execute projects. The textile organizations also helped us to share know-how about the technology and teach people the skills they needed. And this is really important, having that multidiscipline team to support us, a team that's made up of territorial agents, territorial stakeholders from the Human Development Secretariat, for instance. They're always there, they're always supporting the women and monitoring them. There's social care workers, psychologists, and there's people who live locally who really understand us and who really understand each of the women. And whenever any of them need anything, they know that they can reach out to these people.
Gracias, Vane. Ahí les compartí.
Thank you, Vanessa. I've just shared something with you. Octavio was asking about the university, so I've shared a documentary about one of these experiences that is linked to the university. Now, because I don't want to go over the time that we had allocated, the floor is now for Pablo, Paula, and so on.
Muchísimas gracias, Vane.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. Please don't leave us yet, just in case anyone has a question for you last minute. Please don't go unless you really have to. No, I can stay. I really want to thank you, Vanessa, and Eleonora, of course. We'll give the floor now to Sarah from UCLG. This is a big organization where people are working as a network, and they've been taking part throughout the course. We raised the need to make sure that this really echoed in our networks, in our collaboration, learning networks, training networks. So it's great that you're here with us to share something about all of this. The floor is now yours. It's your turn to share with us whatever you'd like to say and to enjoy the conclusion.
Thank you very much. I will speak in English. And first, thank you all. It was very, very interesting to listen to the insights. And I think I first would like to do 2 points on the gender analysis you have done. I think many of you told about the first effects of the crisis is very readable in gender perspective. So we have more violence, more informality, the competition in the SME sector, and we have an enormous, incredible loss of jobs. And but the uncertainties, so how it will continue, and the COVID-19, what will show us. I mean, it's clear we have more inequalities, and the pay gap is not at the best moment. The care work maybe from a double care or double jobs women were doing, now they have to do 4 jobs because additional to care work is also educational work. And we are not sure now how is the recovery financing really attending this inequality. We lobby for it, we advocate for it, but it's very difficult to see how the programs affect it. And I think it was very insightful to see what you have looking at for example, our Metropolis platform or other projects. So it's so difficult to read a constructive and consequent gender mainstreaming in the programs of recovery. And for us, of course, we are very happy to see the new system thinking of LED in this course to be deepened with all your inputs. And I also appreciate very much the preparation of Pablo and FAMSI and FCM for this course, the really excellent notes, which are very useful to bring to scale. And now when we look for the new era of more gendered governance, we need more leaders, we need more programs, we need more footprint, we need more policies, and we need more data and indicators. And of course, policies and data and indicators, we as UCLG, we would really like to document more, but it's not easy. And I think it's not, when we are now, for example, working with other institutes, we are often asked, how is a local policy looking like, a local gender policy? So we can duplicate and we can showcase. And it's not easy to find the really good examples. And so that's why your group is so important. So if we follow the vision, I think in the notes, Pablo said it in the course, we want to be a caring territory. and we want to have caring territories, there is also an important aspect when we can see what can be learned from all these women that are doing the 4 jobs and taking care, working, producing, and educating. So how is this link between the caring territory, which is a general idea for development, can learn from what women can do? And I think the entrepreneurship, for example, in your examples, were full of wonderful lessons to go to scale. And when we look how we go to scale, the key is to build the capacities of local governments. This is, of course, where we all agree. And when we look at the capacity building for local government, we look on youth. I think in the beginning, Abdallah made that point very clear. The young people are so important, and in particular when we look on the gender. The local leader, the female leader, but also the way how they lead, how SME that are led by women are taken care of. I think there is a big chance of the new economy and of the COVID funding, but it is very seldomly linked, so that many of the small and medium enterprises are led by women. And so procurement policies, as you were saying, and the example of the uniforms, and there are many other procurement policies, easy to link, and maybe to look on that local governments can raise awareness on the role of women in this kind of initiatives also on national scale. This we can only achieve through capacity building, and hopefully through the capacity of local councillors and of associations to those who can then influence policy making on all levels. So finally, to come to the question Pablo was making, what can we as UCLG do as a next step on this course? So for us, first, we are very happy that FCM and FAMSI that are leading our committee on local economic development do this course, because this is a way how we can really grasp on the basis, on the territory, on the local practice. So of course, the main results will be gathered by them. And I think also the platforms, the one of Metropolis, they have 2 platforms, very relevant, the youth platform and the Global for Health platform, to fill with examples of all kinds. This is critical, and this is of course impossible for us, but very possible for you. So this ball goes a little bit back. We will partner with other organizations. So we have now, for example, we design a guide also with this group, with the UNDP on gender recovery. So economic development based on gender in the recovery. And this is only a starting point. So maybe we can come to more points once we have a little bit more practice and concrete results. And finally, we will do with this group and the committee a MOOC. So this is a massive open online course where this format is much shorter. In 15 minutes or in 20 minutes, you can gather the understanding on what is meant, what is behind local economic development, what is green economy, what all the 4 points you have been working on during this course in the different chapters. And I think there's much to learn from you and from all the participants. And of course, all you are already, or you are part and connected to UCLG, but those who are not yet feel welcome to UCLG and to also articulate and propose your ideas. That's why we are now really happy, and in these times of virtual communication and virtual work, we rely on each other and on the different knowledge platforms, on the courses, and of course we also go for online offers. So that's what we would go for. And thank you so much for participating, for inviting me. And it is a permanent I think this is not the last course, so I'm really happy that all this is connected also to the LED forum. As you know, I think this was already explained before, but we welcome you not only as participants, we also rely on you in different roles. Thank you so much. Over.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much, Sara.
Thank you so much, Sara.
Claro, muy claro tu mensaje.
Your message has reached us loud and clear. You'll be helping to coordinate and to share everything via social media. I'd like to add that Eleonora is involved in a research project, and next year she'll be working on building answers to the questions that Sara has given us. What is the local approach to gender? And it's a learning process. No one would dare to share the final answer to this, I don't think, but there are projects. We call it praxis, where we balance the theory and the practice with the territorial approach of gender, because there's a lot to learn there as well. This is the idea that we always need to have, this idea of networking, of sharing ideas, of learning from one another. This is all crucial. In other modules, we worked on this as well. And Sara, I think, is inviting us to do something which we support, which we share, and that is to keep on learning. Because we are going through uncertain times, uncertain scenarios, and that calls for us to be thinking and learning and reconsidering all the time. We need to be grateful for everything we've learned. And I'd like to ask everyone at UCLG, at FAMC, and everyone to do the very best they can to make sure that all of this carries on, because it's easy for each of us to now go back to the work that we were doing as if nothing had happened, but it's important to carry on. Now we're going to move on to the final stage, which is basically to conclude these 6 weeks of work that we've been doing together. We've talked about this. I've talked about it with Paula and with Emilio, with Nora as well. We knew that we had a big challenge when putting together this course. And I can say that it was very well designed, and I really want to thank all the teachers who've joined us all the way through. They've worked so hard and so well. I'd like to also thank people who've shared experiences like Vanessa. There are a few things I want to talk about linked to the day-to-day work. The platform we've been using will remain open until January, so that teachers can provide feedback and go over anything that may have been left out in the units. Paula and I will make sure that that reaches everyone. Most people have really grasped the importance of the course and have really engaged in it. In January, we'll give you all your certificates. And we just want to ask you to be patient, please, because it's the end of the year and everyone's busy with the administrative end to the year. But I want to say to you, as I've mentioned, that the platform will be open, that the certificates will be ready in January. And there's one last thing I'd like to ask you. I'd like to ask you to fill in the assessments, the evaluation, because we can learn from that. And then if there's any comments that you want to send us, either to me or to Paula, it's really important for us to learn from you. It's not just about us saying, oh, one of the issues in the municipalities all around the world is that they never stop to think and they never stop to learn. It would be unfair for us to say that and then for us not to learn. We have to stop and think and learn too. We have to listen to you. and see what you have to share, because we've done this with a lot of care and a lot of interest, but I'm sure it can be improved. So that's what I want to ask of you. When you can, please fill in the assessment evaluation forms. And that's more or less all. I don't know if anyone would like to share anything now, if anyone would like to say anything. I am really happy. We're all happy. I want to make sure you all know that. And I'd like to say, especially thank you to Paula. I hope you don't mind me saying thank you. A special thanks to Paula for her good mood, her good humor, her good disposition. She's been so present throughout, and she has been a wonderful person to work with. And we've already said that if she ever gets kicked out of FAMSI, she can come and work with us. So thank you, Paula. I don't know if anyone wants to be able to share anything on the chat box or however we're here to, and please, we welcome any positive criticism, any constructive criticism by email as well. Laura wants to say something, I think, so we can give her the floor.
Bueno, antes que nada quisiera agradecer la oportunidad de
I just
haber
wanted to say thank
ingresado al
you
curso.
for the
Me han
opportunity
dejado
for
bastante
letting me join the
aprendizaje.
course. I've learned
Ahora que
quite a
escuchaba la
lot.
experiencia de Vanessa,
Just now, listening to the
pues
experience
también
Vanessa was talking
aprovechando algo
about,
que se está haciendo acá,
I
que es
wanted
una
to share
casa
something
caracol que
about
es
what we've
para
been doing
resguardar
here.
a mujeres que han sido
We've got what we
violentadas.
call a snail house,
Y
where we welcome
aprovechando su
women
experiencia,
who have
pues
been
se me
victims
ocurría que
of
pudiéramos poner en
violence.
práctica que
And
todas
listening
estas
to this
mujeres que
experience, I
llegaran a
thought
Casa
that
Caracol
we could get all of the women who come
pudieran
to this
emprender
snail house
una
to
cooperativa y bueno, se
establish
estaría
a
trabajando el
cooperative, to
tema
become entrepreneurs.
de violencia de género
We mostly
y a
work
la
on the
vez se les
issue
estaría
of
dando
gender violence,
un enfoque para que
and
pudieran emprender
that's
ellas
something we would
también.
still be doing, but we
Y
could
bueno,
also
si se
help
logra
them
ya
to
estaré
become
compartiendo
entrepreneurs.
en
And
otro
if we
espacio con
manage to do
ustedes, a ver
that,
si se pueda.
then hopefully I'll be
Se
able to
puede
share a
hacer
positive
y bueno,
experience
ahora
with
te voy
you.
a tomar la palabra de la vez pasada, no lo había hecho
But
y creo que por algo no había sucedido.
I just
Ya ahora
wanted
tengo más
to
claro qué
talk
se
about
puede
this.
trabajar
Now I
con
know that
ustedes y pues
there's a lot
cuando
left to do.
gusten son
I've learned a lot
bienvenidos en
from all of
Colima,
you,
México.
and you're all
Gracias.
welcome to come to Mexico. Thank you so much, Laura. Leila, I think, also wanted to say something.
Yes, first I would like to thank you very, very much for this course. It's very interesting, and the material, the documents are very interesting. So thank you very, very much. I thank Ilona also. Thank you very much. This question, the subject of gender is very important also at the level of the municipality, how we deal with this subject. So I hope also that we can continue with this course of local economic development, for example, to have another level, and because it's a really very interesting experience for us, and it gives us a different idea at the level of our work also at the municipality. For example, today I have a meeting with my colleagues, some of my colleagues at the municipality, and I introduced for them the course and how we can have develop some idea of this course in my work, how we can develop innovative idea concerning local economic development. So another time again, I would like to thank you very much. Hopefully we can have another course like this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leila. Another one? Okay, vamos cerrando.
Okay, we're going to round up now, wrap it up.
Gracias, Pauli. Martín.
Someone else, Martin, I think, wanted to share something. Sorry. Thank you, Paula, for letting me know.
No te escuchamos, Martín.
I'm afraid we can't hear Martin.
Podemos esperar, Martín, ¿eh?
We can wait. There's no hurry.
En la Patagonia, en el sur del sur, hay problemas de audio, parece.
Here in the south, the very, very far south of Argentina, there appear to be some sound difficulties. Oh, his microphone isn't working. What a shame.
Nos queda alguien, Pauli.
Well, is there anyone else? Paula, have I missed anyone? I don't think so. I think that's everyone. Javier has shared something on the chat box. But that's all.
Hello.
I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Islam.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
So, first of all, I have big pleasure to be a part of this event.
El intérprete nos está
And
diciendo que
it seems to I printed all the area of our projects here in Algeria, especially the project of clean and intelligent cities from 220 to 230 here in Algeria. Thank you a lot for the informations. Thank you a lot for the new knowledge, because I participated in them in many events, and the knowledge in your training are really new and really important. Thanks a lot. And I'm happy to be with you also. Thank you.
Pablo, ¿ahora me escuchan?
Ahora te escuchamos, Martín.
Can you hear me now, Pablo? Yes, Martin, we can hear you.
Disculpen que siempre he tenido algún problema técnico.
I'm sorry, but I had a technical issue. I wanted to say thank you very much for the course to everyone. It's been fantastic. It was really important for me to have been able to meet all of you, because throughout the year, working in politics and policy building, I haven't met a lot of people who I can talk to about all of this. And I started to get a bit disheartened, a bit discouraged, because I was bringing forward proposals and found no one was really listening. But reading all of the information, hearing everything in these modules means that I will start 2021 with twice as much knowledge as I had in 2020. The course has been so valuable, all the documents. You can tell that you're all bringing different contributions to the table. I'm a university teacher, and I can see that how much love and care you put into the topics. You can see this in your wording, in the modules, how you've defined them, and that really reaches me. It makes it feel real. And working on local territorial economic development isn't everyone's favorite kind of work. You have to be very engaged. You have to do a lot of volunteering. So I just want to say thank you, because it's not easy in policy, in politics, to find people who speak the same language, let's say, people who understand each other. It seems that we are often talking about things that no one else really understands, but finding this world network that we have now has been great. So thank you so much for letting me take part and for everything that you've shared in all of the modules. Thank you so much, Martin. Thanks to all of you who are writing in the chat box as well, for all your kind messages of thanks. Thanks for your participation. When teachers work hard, feedback like this, like we're receiving today, is warming to the soul. We don't do it for the gratitude, but getting that gratitude is really nice. It's heartwarming, especially at this time of year when our backs are a bit achy, we've got sore necks, and we need a bit of loving care, a bit of support. And Martin said it earlier, I think. We have a colleague who uses the work of senti thinkers, people who think with sentiment, with feeling. We always think and develop with feeling. We do it with love and affection. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for your affection. Thanks for your engagement. We're going to conclude now, and I hope we will all meet again, be it virtually or be it face-to-face. No doubt we'll all get together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eleonora, Pauli. If anyone would like to say anything, if not, we'll go now. Yes, thank you. I just want to send everyone a warm hug.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, happy 2021, hopefully with no surprises. Hopefully full of health and no surprises. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Abdallah, Javi, Martin, Octavi, everyone. Thank you. Bye.